Hey guys, Savat the Mighty here, and I'm back with another Eve Echoes video. Today's video, I would like to start by thanking every single person out there who watches my content. I did hit 500 subscribers, and I really truly do appreciate everybody and all the support I've received in getting here. And thank you so much for helping me do that. Also, too, if you are new to my channel, it is growing quite quickly. If you would, hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you do like my content and want to be notified whenever I do release more. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into today's video. So today's video, I'm still sitting on the test server. However, this is not a request video. This is my own request. I figured for the 500 subscriber video, I was going to go ahead and take a look at the Oracle 2. So the Oracle 2 is special to me because I started my content with Eve Echoes with my Oracle. So it started off with the Oracle 1, and I've done quite a bit in my Oracle. I love that ship. And so having a look at what the Oracle 2 is going to bring to the table is going to be quite amazing and just fun. And I figured it's very appropriate to do for the 500 subscriber mark. Alright, so again on the test server, I do have all skills at all 5 for everything. So this would be like super in-game if you had everything max and were just focusing purely on doing stuff with your Oracle. This is where you would end up. Let's go ahead and take a look. So the Oracle 2 isn't a Mars ship, it is a Tech 9 battle cruiser. And for its bonuses, it's going to get just a regular roll bonus of 95% reduction to large laser power grid needed, and minus 50% to large laser capacitor needed. Meaning that this battle cruiser can fit large weapons, as we know with the Oracle 1 and the similar ships for the other class of weapons. Now for large laser operation bonus, per level you're going to get plus 5% large laser damage and minus 10% large laser capacitor need, reducing the total capacitor need per shot by 50%. It's also going to get for per level of advanced battle cruiser command bonus, minus 5% inertia modifier and plus 5% scan resolution, and letting it turn and lock on that little bit faster. For the basic info, its overall defense is sitting at 33,501. Flight velocity is 156. Warp speed is 2.7 AUs. Power grid output is 1,196 megawatts. Capacitor is sitting at 4,646 gigajoules with a cargo hold capacity of 1,000. Okay, so let's look at the fit. For this fit here, I fit it out exactly as I have my current Oracle fit. I think I did make some minor changes on here, and I'll go over those. Those minor changes are actually thanks to Eternal Echoes. So he's been playing with the Oracle as of recently as well, and he made some changes to a fit that I used a long time ago that I really like, and I will go over those when I do get there. So for our high slots, this one has 7 high slots, which is an upgrade from the 6 that the regular Oracle 1 has. And those high slots, we have 7 Corpus C-type large beam lasers. And our mid slots, I am using 1 Haley target painter, and I have 2 large group armor repairers. Now, the large group armor repairers can be replaced for more target painters. Your target painters themselves, whenever you're running with max skills, are going to have an accuracy fall off at 90 km, where they work at 50%, and an optimal range of 36. That's a total of 126 km out it can reach, which the Oracle is going to be in range in. So if you are doing things like the news encounters and stuff with it, you may want to put in the 2 target painters, or for missions where you're very comfortable in, like if you're doing 2 T8s or T10s and you're not taking any damage and you do those regularly, you can upgrade to the 2, maybe even 3 target painters if you don't expect to take anything. But the group armor reppers are your only way to repair your armor, and so if you do take damage in the ship, that is how you are going to be mitigating that damage. This is a range fit, and it will be fighting at some pretty far out ranges, and not as extreme as some other ships, but still pretty good. Moving to the low slots, well, I do apologize. Before we go into the low slots, let's talk about our hood ornament. Your hood ornament in here, I have the Mark 9 Vespa. This thing is going to do absolutely nothing in this build. It will sit around, it'll hover around our ship, it'll high-five us whenever we kill stuff, but other than that, it's not going to actually be providing any damage. Alright, in our low slots, we're going to have the Gistom C type of micro warp drive, medium. Now, the micro warp drive, I do prefer it in the ship over the afterburner, and the reason for that is it seems to work just fine with the cap that it has, with the micro warp drives in them, and still be very effective. And the micro warp drive allows it to hit the speed much faster. So you can fit a large afterburner in this ship if you want to. It can get up to similar speeds, but it's a lot slower. Sometimes, especially if you're doing T10s with this ship, which I do T10s quite a bit in the Oracle 1, so I can imagine that I'll be doing them in the Oracle 2, you just happen to be that little too close whenever a spawn happens. And if that happens, being able to micro warp drive away, making those turns really quickly, getting up to speed fast, and getting out of there can be the difference between life and death. So I really do like the micro warp drive over the afterburner for the ability to get away. Also in our low slots, we are running 4 Eagle tracking computers. The 4th Eagle tracking computer in here does almost nothing for your range increase. However, by having 4 of these in here, it does let you... Hold on a second, I put one wrong thing in. I'll have to fix that. So that goes back to the missile guidance there from one of my other ships. They looked very similar, so... But you want to have 4 in there, and the reason for having the 4 is that actually lets you cycle through those. And whenever you cycle through those, by the time one's coming off of cooldown, you activate the other one, you go back and forth doing the same thing, you'll have almost no downtime and be able to stay much further out cycling through those, and it actually increases your speeds for the abilities to do T10 content and T8s and other harder encounters. You want to stay farther back so you can avoid the damage that you're receiving from the ships. You want to try to mitigate as much as possible. So you sit as far back and you just keep activating those in tandem, basically, one right after the other, and you should be able to keep some pretty far ranges. And we'll go ahead and... No, we won't, because it's warp driving. Alright, so we're going to continue this while we're warp driving. Our last thing here, we actually have a Centum C-type heatsink. Now, with the Oracle 2, you were given this extra low slot as well, which allows you to fit in a full compilation of 4 of those plus that heatsink, increasing your overall DPS by quite a bit. So, having that added to the fit as well also makes for just way more DPS, and it's going to make this ship kill a whole lot faster, which is very, very good. Total, it's sitting at 1,158.23 DPS. That 1,158.23 DPS is not including the drone, which is never going to do anything. The paper doll does read that it has 1,196.67 DPS, but if you are flying the ship the way that this fit is intended to fly it, that drone should never, ever, 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 ever see any action. So you can take what it says with a grain of salt. Alright, let's get rid of that ballistic control. And put in the other Eagle. Excellent. That's much better. Alright, as far as rigs are concerned, for our rigs on the left, for our combat rigs, we have 1 Laser Collision Accelerator 3, and I have 2 Laser Burst Aerator 3s. The The Laser Collision Accelerator 3 gives us a 17.5 increase to the raw damage that we do, and the 2 Laser Burst Aerator 3s are going to give us 12.5, and the other one a little less than 12.5 of the activation time, making our large lasers fire faster. In our engineering slots, we have 1 Semiconductor Memory Cell 3 for a capacitor increase. That is 22.5%. Our total capacitor is sitting at what it says here is 8 minutes and 2 seconds, but that is very misleading. We also have a Polycarbon Engine Housing 3, which is giving us an inertia modifier adjustment of 20%. In conjunction with the inertia modifier adjustment that this ship already gets, that lets us turn pretty quickly. Whenever you're doing T10s and T8s and all of the harder content, and you are doing it in a range tank fashion, you are approaching and then you're turning back around and leaving, and approaching and turning around and leaving. This is going to help us do that much quicker. Also, if you happen to be approaching on a spawn, it would let you also turn and get out much quicker as well. So I do like having the inertia modifier adjustment in here. And the last one here is what came from Eternal Echoes. and that is the Targeting System Subcontroller 3. This is going to reduce or increase our scan resolution, well, by an additional 30%. That's going to help us lock onto targets just that bit faster. When you do have a bunch of small targets that you are trying to keep under control, having that on there is definitely going to help out tremendously in the long game. I was watching him actually use this and it changed the fit of my regular Oracle to take off. I used to run the 3 semiconductor memory cells, and I changed to the polycarbon engine housing. I don't know if he's done that or not. You could also, if you want to go faster, you can put in one of the, I forget what they're called, but the ones that increase your velocity, auxiliary thrusters, if you would like. But I prefer the ability to spin and move a little bit more than I do to get to that top speed. But whichever you prefer, this slot is kind of an open slot. You can do what you want with it, which I think is actually pretty cool that you can have this ship moving around at the way that it does, and also have that kiting ability. Now, it's not a large micro warp drive like some of the Fits have on other ships, but it is still pretty good. Okay, so let's take a look at the raw stats with the level 5 skills. We already talked about the DPS, but let's take a look at the gun itself. You can see the optimal range on this is going to be 82.47 km with an accuracy fall-off of 29.09. That is going to be basically 110 when you're at 50% damage that you're sitting at before you're activating any of the target computers. Our capacitor, right now it's at a capacitor recharge rate of minus 6.81 gigajoules, minus 25.6%. Capacitor capacity is 6,011 gigajoules. Recharge time is 564 seconds. Capacitor duration indicates 8 minutes and 2 seconds if you have everything running. Okay, moving on to the defense. It has a total of 49,814 effective hit points, with 10,914 of that into the shield hit points, with an EM resistance of 0, thermal resistance of 20, kinetic resistance of 40, and explosive resistance of 55. It has 15,604 armor hit points with an EM resistance of 50, a thermal resistance of 35, a kinetic resistance of 25, and explosive resistance of 20. And lastly, in hull, or structure, it has 12,931 structure hit points, with all resistances sitting at that 33%. Targeting with this fit, it has, again, the max range of 1,000 km. Radar sensor strength is 29 points. Scan resolution is 486. Signature radius of 203. And it can lock a maximum of 7 targets. Navigation out of the box, you're looking at 226 for its top speed. Warp preparation time is 5.28 seconds, with that warp speed of 2.7 and no warp stability. Also, if we look over here on the power grid, our power grid is a maximum of 1,794. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this ship out and take it to an encounter. I think I forgot to get fuel, so maybe I can hit... No, it's too late for that. But that's okay. Hopefully we won't have to use any type of repairing. We'll see. It'd have probably been a good idea to get fuel. Just redock if we can. Mistakes.
Warp drive active.
Yeah, it didn't let us dock. It was already going. Well, that's fine. We'll try it without the fuel. So our group armor reppers are going to be doing absolutely nothing in this battle. Never mind.
Warp drive active.
I confused the system and it kept it in queue. So now we're actually going to go back and dock. So we will pick up the fuel, I guess. Huh. I do think I remember seeing something about that, where it's going to queue up the stuff now. Okay. Let's grab some fuel. Oracle. Oh, 20,000 is too much. Let's do 5,000. There, 5,000 is good. And let's go. So when it comes to fuel, you kind of just want to adjust it to what you see fit for what you're doing. I would recommend starting with more than you probably need, and then tailoring it down as you get more comfortable with your missions. In this case here, I didn't really care because I'm not going to be picking up any of the loot anyway. But one of the cool things about this Oracle with the micro warp drive is once combat is over, it can zip around and pick up loot quite quickly. And with the extra inertia bonuses that it actually gets, it's able to make those stops and turns picking up that loot quite effectively. Usually with your larger battleships and stuff like that, even if you have the micro warp drive, when it hits the loot, you pick it up, it's got to turn, move towards the next one, get back up to speed. That takes quite a bit of time. Now I'm not saying that this doesn't have any. Obviously your smaller ships are going to be much better at it. But having all of the inertia adjustments to this ship does make it do it that bit better, which makes your cleanup time very amazing. Okay, so for our anomaly, first things that we want to look at here is the Stargate that we're at is Alatine. And our cosmic anomaly, here it is. We're going to warp in at 100.
Warp drive active.
And so, whenever I do these long-range fits, a lot of people tend to ask me, or not a lot, a few people tend to ask me in the comments and everything like that. They're like, what's the point in having a ship that has over 100 radius or 100 range? It doesn't really matter. Well, it does. Whenever you're approaching and we're this far away, we're over that 100 already. Well, I can go ahead and activate this and focus fire, and that guy's gone. Now I'm going to focus fire on the other one. Okay. Now we can just fire both of our ships at that, or our lasers at that. We are still clearly out of range. We're going to activate another one of these. And we're going to take a look to see what that actually puts our range up to. So we're seeing an optimal range of 115 with a fall off of 40, meaning we can do 50% damage upwards of 155 km out. And as we can cycle these pretty well, here, let's go ahead and turn both of those off. We can actually stop sitting out here right now. We're in a very safe spot. But I can activate these, hit both my lasers, and we're doing well. Now, on your tougher missions, what you'll want to actually do is figure out what the range of your ship is where they're getting glancing blows. And you don't always want to be stopped as well. Sometimes you might actually just want to continue to move just at a very slow pace. So we can just turn this down to practically nothing, but as long as we have a little bit of movement, then we're going to reduce the damage that we receive much further. Okay. But in this case here, we don't need to do anything like that because we're not taking any damage. Alright, so these are going to be good for 2 cycles each. So if I activate this one now, it's going to fire for 2 cycles, and then I'm going to have to wait a little bit before I can fire again. Now, as you can see, my 4th one still has a little bit of a cooldown before it's going to be able to do anything. So I am going to get a fire, 1, maybe even 2, that are not going to be within the optimal range. But if I was actually just changing over ships there, so I can activate that one now. And it's going to get 2 shots off. And then I would stop these, and I got about 3 seconds left. Now ultimately, if you're not dealing with a bunch of small ships, you can just group those all together. And we can blast 1. Blast 2. The reason why I had those split apart before is because Normally it is easier to split them apart to take care of a bunch of the smaller ships, and probably how you would want to do it if you know you're going to have a bunch of small ships coming through. Okay, we're going to activate the next one. And we could be doing this further out than what we are here, but I just kind of wanted to showcase how this works. And we're sitting here, there's about 10 seconds left on the first one recycling again. And so it's not 100% uptime on all of them, but it does mean that you can have way more consistent damage and stay much further out. Now, doing that is very important to this build because you're not running much of a tank at all, so you really don't want to be taking any type of fire whatsoever. For these news missions, sitting here doing this it's okay, but I mean, I could get away with putting much more damage on here and moving in. But when you are doing the T10s, you would sit, and some of those guys can hit pretty far out, even past that 150 marker. Which is why you still definitely want to have the repairs as well. So yeah, you just sit there and you cycle, and you look at your beautiful ship and your drone orbiting around you. And that is pretty much how the fighting goes. Able to actually clear stuff pretty well. I mean, this is going to be a tier 10 encounter for the Oracle. It's going to be going through these ships. The battleships are always going to take some amount of time to actually get through, especially when it comes to dealing with these Gallente ships that have more hull than anything else. But you just keep cycling, and you keep firing. And when you need to, you can move away. Okay, so at the start of a spawn, you would start your approach away to your exit, so you're moving away. And we can see what ships are actually here within our range and blap them. This is where it's effective to actually have your laser split, because you can take out a lot of the little ships in groups, basically. In this case, we're just going to shoot them. Okay. Once you have your little ships taken care of, you can pretty much just stop. You're just looking out to see if anything else is going to get closer to you and destroy them. Now, one of the options this ship does have that the other versions of it do not is it does have the damage increase as well. So if we activate both of those, we are doing 1,483 DPS hot. That's not too bad. So this Oracle can definitely put out tons of damage. At good distances as well. Okay. Myrmidon is almost dead. And we are going to move over to the Hyperion. So, once you get to the battleships, basically the big thing is one of the things you can actually do with this as well. I don't really want to set orbit. I don't care about that. You can set your approach to 100. I usually don't prefer that. And you can keep your distance, or you can set it to your 80, whatever your actual range is, so you don't have to play around with the tracking computers. But I normally, when doing T10s, don't set an approach like that. I do everything manually because I'm trying to pay attention to everything. Alright. So we can activate both of those again and start doing some more DPS. There we go. And it's pretty much cutting through, and if there's a lot of ships out there, you basically do this. You sit back. If you do notice things are starting to actually put some damage on you, you would move away. Right now we're letting him get fairly close, so he is basically within optimal range, so not really much that we need to do at this point. Alright. We're going to approach our escape point and get to moving again. We'll actually put up our speed. Now these guys are much further away. So what I'm looking for is seeing which ones are moving in quickest. Go ahead and activate the target painter and we're going to blap them. So still 130 out. This is the part that's good for when you have spawns that have a ton of smaller ships in them. You are able to keep your distance and still eliminate all threats. Really good for tier 10s. Now we missed there because our system wasn't exactly in queue with the speed that we were firing. Alright, so 136 km. We're still able to cycle these out and do decent damage. Now as you can see, our lock time is pretty good too. So we're able to actually keep things unlocked and just lock them up whenever we need to. So 130 km out without any one of the computers activated is going to be a bit much. So at that point in time, you would just stop your guns from firing and you would sit back and chill. Yep, not getting any hits in. Okay. So we'll activate the computer, the damage, and then fire. 5,544, not bad at this range. 4,449 for the second hit. And third one takes him out. We're in a very good spot. 6,000 on the Myrmidon. 5,600. So we're doing good. Our drone's still sitting here. He's high-fiving us every time we kill something. We have that Hyperion out there. None of them are actually able to do anything to us. We still actually managed to land a blow for 700 there. Usually if you're going to be using the heat sink, I would imagine you would want to time that a little bit better and make sure that you have a majority of your damage being able to apply. Now, you could always move in. And that's what we're going to take a look at here. We're going to turn on the micro warp drive. The ship turns pretty good, and it's going to build up speed here. And for our navigation, we're sitting at 1097. Now that's kind of why I was saying you might want to, instead of using the one that helps you with your turning and everything like that, you might actually want to use the one that increases your overall speed. But as you can see here, we're doing just fine. We're going to set our approach to 82 actually. And as you can see also, I do have the micro warp drive running for a good amount of time. And everything still seems to be working Like the capacitor, even though it says it's not stable, it's staying stable enough. And stable enough is all you really need. You're not going to be running that micro warp drive all the time, but you can run it for a good length of time. Alright, as you can see here at 80, we're actually in range of the Hyperion now. So this is a dangerous spot to sit at, even though it is just glancing blows. So we can afford to sit here, but if you had something a bit heavier striking you, then that's when you would want to play with your range and move back a little bit. I just moved into the optimal range here for the purpose. Now, as you can see, since I have that set approach, my ship keeps turning around, and it is turning quite quickly. So when it's playing around with this, hey, I wanna go towards and go away and stuff, it's pretty useful. And so we're just hanging out at that 82 km, which is right within our optimal range, blapping them. But as you can hear with those little bit of sound effects, we are taking small amounts of damage here and there. So if we wanted to take absolutely no damage, we would definitely stay back and play the rotation games on our tracking computers, and we'd have every ability to do that and still finish higher end content in a speedy amount of time. For the purposes of doing these news missions, I probably would take off a tracking computer, maybe even two, and put on more damage mods and just stay a little bit closer and blap them off the face of existence. But yeah, it's not the most exciting combat in the entire world, but it is very safe, very secure, and quite enjoyable if you once you perfect the little intricacies of it and the juggling. Will let you to be able to complete some of the higher end content very well. Now, battleships will be available, but not everybody's going to have the skill points to be able to retrain into a battleship and have focused a lot on the battle cruisers. So if you did focus and you are in your Oracle, don't worry about having to jump right into your Apocalypse or whatever your battleship is of choice. You might just want to jump into an Oracle 2. The Oracle 2 is an upgrade on the Oracle in all ways, and can do some pretty amazing things. Alright, again, thank you everybody who has subscribed to me in the past, has supported me this entire time, and all the people who will support me in the future. I really do appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at Savat the Mighty, or you can join us at Discord. The links will be in the description below. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time.